Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Fandom Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we're talking about Head Canon. What happened between episodes 19 and 20 in season 15, and what were the Winchesters doing during that time? But before we launch into that, I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Alex.
Hey guys, I am Alexander Gideon. If you don't know me by now, my writing style can best be summed up by the words, and many people died. I am just getting through the edits on my third book in the Book of the Law series from the Shadow Council archives, and that book is really proving that true. I write the books of the law for Falstaff Books. First book is A Web of Crimson, came out last April. Second book is hopefully out soon. It is currently in my editor's hands, so hopefully that will be out sometime this year.
And your main character is Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley.
Relevant. Yes. Chris?
Hi, I'm Christine Griffin, Christamos, and I am a longtime Supernatural fangirl. I go by Quick Reaver all over the internet, everywhere there's social media. You can plug that in, you'll find me. But I'm also a fine artist under ChristineGriffinArt.com, and I run some events in the fandom, and I've been in the fandom pretty much from the jump. I caught the show when it was originally airing, and yeah, that's me.
Cool. Lola?
My name's Lola Laracy. I've been a Supernatural fan since the get-go. It's just my perfect thing, you know, Supernatural and the CW. I'm also a writer. I have one book published that's 8 years old, and I've been writing the second one since then. I'm very slow. But the first book is called Trudy Lim's Spaceship Captain Earth Detective.
Awesome. And Carole?
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I'm a longtime fan since season 3. I've been writing fanfic since 2012. You can find me on AO3 under Firesign10, on Twitter at true_Firesign10. I've just been very involved in a lot of challenges, a lot of writing, a lot of, immersing myself in the wonderful Supernatural fandom.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic fantasy, urban fantasy, near future post-apocalyptic stories, and more. And as Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. Under either name, I write stories that usually have worlds where Sam and Dean could walk in and feel right at home. And absolutely love the series, came to it late, fell down the rabbit hole, still falling. Changed a lot of wonderful things for me, and so I'm grateful to be here. So episodes 15-19 and 15-20, that's the space between Inherit the Earth and Carry On. Jared has said that his headcanon is that there's about 5 years elapsed there. Now, when the show aired, there was a lot of outrage in the fandom thinking that they had, Dean had died 1 week, and then, that they had defeated Chuck 1 week, and then, wham, Dean was gone the next. I think we had a lot of clues in, particularly in Carry On, that there was a time lapse there. But let's talk about what you think, whether they had 5 years or 2 years or whatever. This is all headcanon so far until they come back with the new adventures of Sam and Dean, which we all hope they will. So what's your headcanon and what are you basing it on? And I'm going to go the opposite direction, start with Carole.
I am totally in the 5-year camp. I feel, and I even went back and I just yesterday rewatched 15-19 and 15-20. I skipped the barn scene. I'm not Superwoman. But I watched up to it and after it. And I really, really feel firmly that the ease of life that they showed us post, the conquering of Chuck was not something that you got within a couple of weeks. They were so comfortable in their own skins. They were comfortable with their routine. They were doing what they do. You know, Sam's out for his run and then he's making breakfast and Dean's catching the toast before it hits the plate. And I really, really feel that they were very relaxed and comfortable. I feel they were hunting, but all of the huge stuff was over. There was no angels and demons and the end of the world. It was like, let's just go out and hunt a few, you know, werewolves, that kind of thing. There's no way to me that it presented in a way that could have been, it's a couple of weeks. They were way, way too comfortable for that, you know. That's my feeling, my head canon.
How about you, Lola?
I agree. I think, like you said, Carol, they had gotten over all the big stuff, so it was very like casual day-to-day hunting. They used their casual flannel, you know. So it was almost like vacation for them. You know, it's like, what, I can kill a demon or whatever before breakfast. That's no problem. And so I think they were living a very nice life, you know, brothers together in the bunker, cruising out with baby, killing some, you know, monsters, coming back home, maybe even before dinner. You know, they were almost like semi-retired.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's, of course, that's what makes it so sad. Something seemingly simple got them in the end. But that's also life. Even something seemingly simple can get you. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, Chris, I know you've given this a lot of thought, and we'll come back to that part later. But just from a starting point, overview, what do you think is going on with Sam and Dean in that intermediary time?
I agree with everybody else. There was a chunk of time happened. I didn't really ponder how much, but clearly enough time had happened that it's just routine, you know, a lot of milk run hunts. And interestingly, I watched the finale with my 19-year-old son, my baby, and he watches it sporadically. He's very much a general audience guy. And we were surprised, we were discussing afterwards, and I, you know, I hit Twitter right after the episode, and people were upset that so little time had passed. And I'm like, how did they get that? And even my son, who only watches the show once in a blue moon, said, yeah, no, they were falling into a routine. They'd been out, you know, time had passed. So I think it was pretty clear, even for just, you know, a kid that watches it once in a while, enough time had passed. There had been plenty of time, and they were just doing hunts. Like I think Carol said, there's no more no more demons, no more angels. So the hunts were fairly routine, and business, you know, life as usual, business. You know, I don't, plenty of time had passed. So I don't know how much, but I'll buy 5 years totally.
Alex?
I can kind of see them falling into what Bobby and then Garth were to the hunting community, and for that time stepping back, not going out as much, being the one that when someone needs a supervisor called, you know, you call the bunker, and that's, which of course we know, the phone calls can't be tracked inside there, so it makes it even better if they're the ones answering those calls, because it's not going to be able to be tracked. It's not going to be able to come back and bite them when, oh, hey, this is a burner cell that we tracked your number to. But yeah, they were way too comfortable for that to have been more than at least a year. At least a year in between there. And
you know what gave it away to me was when Sam leaves the bunker and Miracle follows him up the steps. Miracle has trouble on the steps. Mm-hmm. And when I first saw it as a dog person, I'm thinking, now why did the dog, you know, the pet wrangler let that poor dog have trouble going up those steps, thinking that it was, you know, the wire mesh on the steps. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, wait a second, a pet wrangler wouldn't. Miracle appeared to be a very young or youngish dog when Dean found him, jumped right in the Impala, jumped right in his arms. There was no arthritis or, oh, my hips are creaky. And the way Miracle was going up those steps is the way an old dog with sore hips moves. And I looked at that and said, time has passed because the dog got old. Maybe 5 years or whatever, when you're 42 and 37 doesn't show in your face a whole lot, but it shows on your dog at a certain point. And so that was the giveaway to me. And the camera lingers on Miracle climbing the steps. It's not just, oh, blink and you'll miss it. The dog is coming up slowly. The camera shot lingers on Miracle. And that has to mean you're supposed to notice it and take something from it, because nothing is ever incidental in Supernatural.
I completely concur with that, where, you know, like I said, watching it yesterday, and he's like, da-dum, da-dum, you know, coming up behind Sam, and I was just like, yeah, they're telling us something here.
He even kind of rocks backward the way an old dog does when their hip is twinging and they might lose their balance. I don't know how you train a dog to do that, but I'm looking at that as a dog owner going, oh, that's the dog you normally start carrying up the steps. So yeah, that was my sign that time had passed. What about that application on Dean's desk? What do we make of that? The internet has tried to blow it up and clarify it and get, you know, all kinds of fan theories, but what do you think it is? Anybody jump in?
I like the idea of law school for Sam, because that's what he started out, and you know, he could go back and do that, because they, you know, might be a nice fallback plan. Although I think their history is so scrubbed at this point, I don't see how he could legally have any kind of law license. Yeah, I don't think that would happen unless he made an identity that was strong, like a new identity that could have a law degree, a law license.
He could be a shadow lawyer, but having just gotten one of our kids through law school and the bar exam and all of that, oh my gosh, that would be hard to fake even for Charlie. But you could be the shadow lawyer who gives advice and knows how to do things around the edges.
Like if
going back to the Bobby thing,
like the Hunter's version of a mafia lawyer, you know?
Yeah, consigliere for hunters.
Yeah, the difference is, you know, Sam wasn't disgraced, didn't lose his license because of some criminal thing. You know, he just was a hunter and couldn't legitimately get one.
And they find a practicing lawyer who is sympathetic to the cause, and he runs things through, but Sam does all the brain work. That could work.
I'm not going to lie, when I was rewatching this, I kept freezing and going up to the TV and like trying to figure out exactly what it said. And the only thing I really got was minimum requirements, where there was some kind of, you know, scale you had to hit. And I just really could not discern more than that. I've heard fireman theories, and I've heard, you know, a policeman theory, various, that kind of thing, where Dean always wanted to be the one to save people. And
he would never be a cop, though. He would never.
No, but I mean, I could see the fireman, because that always played back to the.
It's his adrenaline junkie. Dean's an adrenaline
Well,
junkie.
and his voice
thing. Being a fireman.
But also way back to season 1, when they go in to rescue John out of the apartment building, and he's like, you know, I always wanted to be a fireman when I grew up, you know, and people liked that coming. So who knows, maybe it was, but I tried.
I don't think
anybody found out. I don't think anybody could zoom in enough to tell, but so the common theories were a fireman and construction again, because he did that with Lisa.
Oh yeah, right.
Construction, mechanic, and short haul trucker, you know.
Oh yeah, he loves to drive.
He likes to drive. And if he could do, there's plenty of work for short haul truckers, particularly nowadays, where he could be home every night.
It's not very glamorous, but yeah.
Well, neither is really construction or being a mechanic.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
He's good with his hands, and he likes to do that kind of work. Yes, I saw that, Chris.
No.
Honestly, does it have to be a job at all? Like, I've seen applications for car shows that look a whole lot like applications for a job, and you know, 67 Impala.
True. Show off baby.
Exactly. Taking it to car shows. You've got the time now. They don't have anything, dire that's going on that they're having to solve.
That's true.
I mean, we see them go to the Pie Fest. Why not car shows?
Well, and with the bunker, they don't have to keep scamming credit cards to pay for hotel rooms. They never really talk about their source of income after they really get settled into the bunker, whether the men of letters have, a room of requirement with an unlimited amount of money, or whether they're still ghosting on Charlie's cards.
Yeah.
But assuming that they aren't going to run out of cash for necessities anytime soon, I've even read stories that posit a renewable refrigerator that just stocks itself, because why not? Yeah, all they've got is time at this point. What does that mean for a Winchester who's in part been able to kind of outrun their past by staying busy all the time? What kind of stories does that open up now that you're not constantly over busy?
Football game watching? That's what I'm thinking. They probably have like a big TV. They probably have like a big man cave type thing.
Dean's
Popping
man
back
cave.
the beer.
Dean's got the Dean cave. It's there.
They do. And they just pop back, drink their beer and eat popcorn. That's probably what a lot of their time's like.
Horror movies, like with in Bobby's head, when we're seeing some of the memories that he had back in season 7. He had a couple of memories where they were sitting on the couch and they're debating the horror movies and what's better, and I can see them having hunters come over to crash to get information, to get something out of the bunker because they on a hunt and they need I mean, they have the freaking Spear of Destiny, which how that like never really came up again, I have no idea. But I mean, they've got all that stuff, so I can see them becoming those guys that are like, hey, while you're here, let's go watch a movie and watch the game, or do something like that, and just having that revolving door.
I'd love to see them go find all the other chapter houses for the men of letters and catalog them or loot them and bring back the good stuff or whatever. That could be a series of road trips and unexpected consequences right there.
They could even have special name, like a mini series, or how Star Wars does Star Wars stories. It could be supernatural stories, and it could be called like Chapter House. They could do, first one could be Chapter House 1, then Chapter House 2.
Well, I think that's what we're all hoping, with all the hints Jared and Jensen have dropped about wanting to revisit this, is that they'll come back to it for some kind of limited series or made for TV movie or something like that. And I think that's clever, not telling us how much time elapsed between the 2 episodes, because they come back and want to do it on and off in between other projects for years. Well, more power to them. Now, Chris, I know you have put a lot of time into this because you're working on season 16, sort of.
We are. There's 20 of us that we're just buds that do events together, and we sort of fell into the idea as the show was wrapping. We caught a lot of spoilers, and we had a lot of thinking like what's going to happen, and our guesses were really close to what actually transpired in the show. So which we decided we did not like. So right then and there, but we're like, hey, if it happens, we live with it. What are we going to do? But we decided that we were going to write our own season 16 if we didn't like the way the show ended. And there's, of course, some very colorful mixed reviews on that, that we would just do our own season 16 to sort of wrap it the way we wanted to wrap it in our own way and not, imply it's canon or anything. But as it turned out, one of our ideas was to squeeze that into the time between 19 and 20. And it played out perfectly for us to be able to do that. So that's what we're doing. Our season 16 is squeezed in between 19 and 20. So it's the cases that they are working before the barn. And it's really fun because we're operating it just like a season would be. We break stories, we have a myth arc, we have monsters of the week peppered throughout. And we just sort of it just sort of fell together organically, just a bunch of us hanging out saying, let's try it. And then we ended up having enough people and we just went for it. And we've got authors and authors, artists, soundtrack, you name it, betas, the whole 9 yards. And it's really interesting because we do it very much the way the show probably broke their seasons, and how hard it is to remain emotional continuity. You know, what's Dean feeling here in this show? And then you pass it to the next author who then has to stick to that emotional note as they evolve on. And I have a lot of respect for like we complain about the supernatural authors, oh, continuity's off or whatever. Oh, Dean wouldn't have done that there because he did this. It's hard. It is hard to maintain emotional continuity when you've got that many authors. And so we do have an executive producer who kind of show runs for us, and she keeps cat wrangling. But so it's been really fun, and yeah, it's been great.
Well, there's certainly enough dropped plot threads and things that the writers never came back to that. Whether we were looking for Jesse to come back in the big fight at the end or just wondered what the heck ever happened to that thing. Like you mentioned, the Sphere of Destiny. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we pick up a few of those plot threads, but not. I don't want to spoil too much.
Sure,
we
sure.
do pick up a few of those threads. We pick up Sam and his affinity for spell work. That's one of the threads that we pick up. We also deal with, and we're like even split between Sam girls and Dean girls, if you will. And we have some multi-shippers and some cast girls that are girls. I say girls, but I mean gang, who are dealing with what's going on in heaven with Jack and Cass. We have a couple episodes dedicated to that. But Dean's alcoholism, or his functional alcoholism, is a topic for us, and we want to crack that egg. But I'm not gonna, I'm not going to spoil much more than that. Oh, I will spoil. I mean, 2 of the episodes have dropped, so I will tease that one of the things that we're planting is the fact that there's true crime podcasts all over the place now, right? One of them has caught on to the fact that there's a big black car that shows up at so many of these cases, and who are these men that they keep seeing? So that's our myth arc. Is the podcast is starting to get wise to the fact that the Winchesters show up time and again, and they're supposed to be dead, and they're not. So that's our myth arc, and we're I'm not spoiling. There's, like I said, the first 2 episodes have already dropped, but there's more to that. It gets deeper.
Awesome.
I've read the first episode so far. I haven't read the second one, but I've read the first one, and it's definitely a very multi-layered kind of effect, because you're reading the story, but along with the story are 4 or 5 pieces of art, illustrating, and along with that is the soundtrack. And within this first episode, for instance, we've got like 4 different songs at different times that are weaving into the background of that story, and also using some of the orchestral music that we've become so familiar with in terms of like themes and everything, and that's weaving in. So it's not just a one note kind of thing. We're talking, it's, the writing, the art, the music, it's all kind of coming together to present this episode, so it's a very well structured and intricate presentation.
Thank you, Carole. That's really awesome.
Cool.
I missed a lot of those little details, but that's why Carole's one of our betas, and she's gonna help us out, keep us on task, and track that with, and make sure our episodes string together and are well read.
So what are some of those loose ends and dead ends and dropped plot threads that, if you had your druthers, the Winchesters would cycle back around to find?
You've already
Aside from
said
Jesse
mine.
the Antichrist.
Yeah,
Jesse.
Jesse would 100% have been my like of all the things that they've left, they haven't addressed by the end of the series. That was the biggest thing, and that was like really would have been like the last thing that they could have gone after. Though of course, you kind of can't kill God. Not really kill God, but you know what I mean. And then go for the Antichrist. Like that's a little anticlimactic. But I mean, I still would have liked to see that addressed, and I can see that being a major plot arc. Maybe Jack doesn't bring demons back. We don't know. We don't know if demons even disappeared, because I mean they don't have vessels anymore, so they would just be smoke flowing around unless they can figure out a way to become corporeal. And maybe Jack didn't bring the demons back. Maybe there's no hell anymore. Maybe you've got Antichrist comes back and he wants to bring back hell and start demons again.
Well, I'll have to deal with Rowena on that one, and she's got something to say there. We did another panel on the fairy realm in Supernatural, and debated for quite some length what Supernatural touched on a lot of fey creatures, but they never really went in depth into the fairy realm. And that opens up a whole new area, since assuming we don't have heaven and hell anymore, having the Seelie and Unseelie courts and the winter and summer kingdoms. And we know that, read this however you want, Dean serviced Oberon. There is a claim on him. All kinds of plot bunnies hopping around there.
The Wild Hunt. Oh God, could you imagine?
I would love to
do
do Winchester Wild Hunt.
Oh, cool.
How cool would it have been if they had done a crossover with Lost Girl? That would have worked out really well too. That you have them and can't remember her name.
Crossover with Once Upon a Time, and it becomes the monster of the week.
Yeah.
And the Winchesters kill
Everything.
And what a great parallel that I feel like they could have played on, because you would have had Jesse, who is the child of a human and a demon, and you have Jack, who is the child of a human and an angel. And wouldn't that have been interesting to have them, against each other or with each other?
I love the idea of them being with each other and leveraging their different abilities, assuming there's anything left to take care of. Lola, any thoughts there on loose ends you'd love to see tied up if we get more of this, or as fan fiction writes all of the wonderful opportunities?
You already mentioned my big one, the chapter houses. I'd love to see more about men and women of letters all over the world. They could explore that.
Now, curtain fic has been a big thing in Supernatural for a long, long time. Looking ahead in all the seasons, when, of course, nobody knew it was going to run 15 years or that it would be renewed. And even despite that, just thinking ahead to, well, where are these guys ultimately going to end up? And some of it is funny, and some of it is tragic, and some of it goes on for a very, very long time, like the Chicago verse. What are some of your favorite curtain fics? Either stories or ideas from stories that I think the verdict is in, and Dean owns an auto shop. Because that's in a gazillion stories. Come on, you guys. I'm counting on you here. I know you know.
Okay, the one that we're talking about, we were just talking about today, and I can't pronounce the author's last name, but Last Outpost
of all that is.
Oh my God! If you want to have your heart ripped out and shown to you, and wagged in front of your face and say, "Here it is." That's the thing.
Yasunko or something like that.
Gaiketsu net or something.
Yeah.
That's my hint of pronouncing it, but Last Outpost of all that is. Yeah.
So good, so beautifully written. Beautiful. And just if you like angst, if you like angsty curtain fics, that's the one.
Yeah.
The one.
I love Gifts by Muffy Morgan.
Okay.
Really long one, it's a gen fic. Last Outpost is not. But no, but it basically, talk about random luck. Sam and Dean are just playing pool in a bar. They're not on a hunt. They're just taking a little time off, and Sam gets shot by a robber and nearly dies, might be permanently paralyzed, and Dean does what he needs to do to take care of Sam. And in doing so, they settle into a life after hunting. And the whole story is the little things they do out of their love for each other when there's nothing else left. And they're really giving from the heart. It is a beautiful story, and it does come to a pretty happy ending. But that's one of my favorites. It's also really long, which is nice.
I certainly like, there's so many stories where, yes, they go places where it's like Dean's a mechanic, Sam's a teacher or a lawyer and stuff. I also enjoy the ones where they go someplace different, like Dean turns out to be like a chef because he's such a great cook, or, you know, things like that where they go a little bit unexpected. Definitely all the kinds of fics where they settle down and they're able to just be themselves and be happy, and they get to lay aside the, you know, the struggles to the death all the time, although maybe they're doing a Bobby thing with, you know, helping and teaching. And there's so many, it's like such a huge trope in and of itself, you know.
There was one I read where they were house shopping and they end up getting this house at a great price because it's originally deeply discounted because it's haunted. It's maliciously haunted. And they unhaunted it.
Perfect.
Which I've always said that if the Winchester house had real Winchesters in it, it wouldn't be haunted anymore.
It was a spiritual fixer-upper. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even sometimes in the curtain fix, they might do a few little local kinds of things. There's a poltergeist next town. Okay, we'll take care of that. But nothing big, nothing major. You know, maybe one of them has been injured, and they can't physically really hunt anymore like that. But
there's another wonderful story where they've bought a place and settled down, and I forget what they're doing for a living, but it's very domestic. And Sam is out hanging laundry. They've met their neighbors. The neighbors are very kind. It's two elderly ladies who are, you know, next door. And Sam's out hanging laundry on the line and it's hot and he takes his shirt off. And one of the elderly ladies invites him over for tea. And it's a formal tea service. She brought out the good silver and the crystal and all this. And he finally says, you know, Dean can't taste holy water, but I can. And look, the silver doesn't bother me at all. What's going on? And it turns out she was an army nurse in Vietnam. And she took one look at the scar on his back and knew he shouldn't be alive.
Wow.
that's
That's
awesome.
really cool.
And of course, they end up being good buddies after he finally explains what happened. But I just loved that interaction with the neighbors and how their past catches up with them.
Oh, that's really cool. I'm gonna have to get I'll have to get that page, because I'm like really dying to read that now.
You made me think of something. All right. Remember that one episode? I think we watched it on a Monday night not too long ago, where it turned out not to be supernatural. It was really the daughter who was doing bad stuff. So when you said they meet their neighbor, it made me think of, has anyone seen the TV show You? Y-O-U?
Oh yeah, I watched that whole.
Is scary. That is freaking scary. And it's about a serial killer. It's not supernatural. But when you said that, the episode, the last season ended on him seeing his neighbors. They moved into a new place. And so when you said that, I just got a picture of the guy from You, the killer, looking over the fence and seeing Sam and Dean looking back. And I'm like, they're gonna take care of a human monster.
Well, whatever happened to
I
Missy
like that.
Bender?
Cool.
And did we have an episode that dealt with Jacob Pond, or have I read too much fan fiction?
Nope.
Too much fan
Jacob
fiction.
Pond is running around out there. Missy Bender is running around out there.
Yeah,
They did take care of Dean's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, you know, just like in episode 20, it ended up being a loose end from episode 120, where it was Kate's gang of vampires from
Dead
Dead in the Water.
Mm-hmm.
Dead Man's Blood.
Dead Man's Blood, you're right. Yeah, 120, 1520. Oh, the show and its mirrors.
True.
Alex, how about you? What curtain fic, you know?
I'll be honest, I don't read a lot of fanfic.
Even just imagining a scenario for them. Hey, wouldn't that be cool if?
I don't know, I kind of like the idea of them taking on a serial killer. And I mean, we've had having like the Moriarty to their Sherlock Holmes, like maybe something like, maybe you've got a Wendigo that is, you know, different than the others. I mean, that's an alpha that we never saw.
That's true.
And maybe the alpha Wendigo is the last alpha left, and you have even a whole season where you've got this extremely smart, perfect hunter that is possibly even hunting the hunters, and, you know, is dropping bodies to get them to certain places where he wants them, and is just testing them as they go along. I think that'd be really cool.
And of course, serial killers would have Sam's.
I was going to say,
hobbies. He does like some serial killer.
we know very little about Sam's hobbies. We know a lot about Dean's hobbies and what his favorite foods are, but we do know that Sam does like his true crime, and he likes the serial killer.
You know, another cool idea, I was just thinking, you could have like a situation where there's a group of hunters who get too zealous and they're not careful, and they're just killing people who they suspect are vampires, not doing the homework like Sam would do. And Dean's kind of torn because he's not one to do the homework either. And part of him may think, you know, they're getting business done. Who are we to question? And Sam would be like, no, you know, they're killing innocent people, or they're putting other people in danger, and they could kind of deal with this faction.
You know, there's a whole other strata of curtain fic that is also end-verse fic, where it's post-Croatoan, and it's for whatever reason it's post-apocalyptic, and it takes a number of different slants on how they got there, and sometimes doesn't even tell you how they got there. But you know, there's some really good ones out there that have been written kind of in a Mad Max sort of future.
Yeah, Zombie Uprising.
Treasure by Son of a Biscuit.
Something I was just thinking about as a mini series, not even between 19 and 20, and actually in the middle of 20. You know, we don't necessarily see that Sam gets out of the life immediately. And having that, you know, going back to that like serial killer kind of thing, like it can be another hunter, it could be, you know, Alpha Wendigo, whatever it is, but someone who tests Sam post Dean as, are you still good enough to do this? And maybe the answer is no, not as a team. They can't do it. You know, he's not as good, and that's the reason why he gets out. Maybe he fails the test and, you know, has his own version of the Reichenbach fall, and that gets him out of the life, and he's just, I can't do this without Dean.
Yeah, I could totally see that, because Dean would not want Sam to basically kill himself on a hunt because he can't do it anymore.
Well, and we know hunters generally don't have retirement. So I like the idea that at least one Winchester carried on and had a family and carried on the name. So I think it's good that he got out of the life.
Well, and Sam has a history of burning down the world when Dean is taken away from him. He does not cope well. Dean destroys himself, Sam destroys the world. And so for me, even, you know, seeing that whatever relationship he had with the blurry woman on the porch, he had a reason to live with Dean Jr. And that would have been huge for Sam, because otherwise it just didn't go well. Time after time. It
anchored him into the present. And that kind of refers what you were saying before about one avenue we never really saw, of course, was Sam becoming the Boy King.
Oh, right. That would be that's my loose
there's
end.
a loose end where
I'm a huge Boy King Sam fan, and that's why
there's a lot of
there's a lot of good fiction out there.
Yeah, tons of great Boy King fic. Whether he becomes the Boy King and that's it, and oh well, or he becomes the Boy King and Dean manages to save him and bring him back. Whichever way you go, there's a huge section of that. And it was a real possibility as he got down to the wire there and he was all juiced up on the demon blood and stuff. He could well have crossed over into that.
There was a story I really enjoyed, which, you know, would have negated the whole rest of the Kripke arc, but basically Dean goes to hell. Okay, let's flip those switches. Meet your new king. And I want Dean back right now.
Yeah. There's so many great great ways that goes.
Some of them
knows a lot of them because she's a huge Boy King fan.
Yes.
Biggest right here.
So do you think Sam ever taught Dean Jr. anything about the life? We know he had the tattoo, which would have at least been protective. But in your headcanon, did he teach him at least about the dangers? Did he teach him to hunt? Did he leave it to him? Did he leave the bunker to him to maybe pick up?
No, my headcanon is that he left the bunker. The bunker he locked it up and never came back. Just because that's where Dean was. It was too painful. We said he was miserable. He was miserable alone in the bunker. So when he left, and he just locked the door. From the outside, it just looks like a derelict bunker. No one's gonna think otherwise. I think he absolutely informed his family about the past, because that was, I personally think that was part of the arc that was designed. He broke John didn't tell his sons all that they needed to know. He kept a lot secret from them, and it hurt the family. I think Sam would have made the conscious effort to not do that. And that was Sam's full circle from his wraparound from the beginning. And his success was that he broke that I forget, not articulating, but he broke that. Yeah, exactly. And Dean managed to find worth in himself. The past few episodes, like the 17, 18, we had characters like sort of spontaneously telling Dean how great a guy he was. And I'm like, I'm not gonna make it, because that's Dean's low self-esteem has been his bane the whole show, and that was being addressed. And Dean was digesting that I'm not a bad guy, you know, I'm a good guy, and that's why that was Dean's full circle moment. Or Sam's full circle moment was, I made my family safe. He always wanted safety. He always wanted, and in doing that, lying to Jessica got her killed. You know, I mean, that's in Sam's eyes. I don't know that it literally played out that way, but so I think he absolutely told his family. He absolutely told his family and said, we're not in that biz anymore. But
actually, Azazel did, one of the demons did tell Sam that he needed to be nudged back into the life, so pretty little Jess had to die. So it wasn't exactly his fault, but it happened because he was connected to her.
Right.
And as long as they have the name Winchester, anyone around them is going to be in danger. So I think he would want to prepare his family. They need to know how to take care of themselves.
These are what the little funny little carvings around the door means. And this is why we have
they're not hobo marks.
The cup filled with, that's mixed with salt, and you know.
And this is what you do. This is how you do this kind of spell. At least some basics.
There was a curtain fic where Dean built them a house, and he laid in the foundation PVC pipe filled with salt. So they had a permanent, salt circle in the foundation of the house. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's really smart. Let's use iron pipes throughout the house. Let's plant some stuff in the garden. Yeah.
There was something that I noticed the other day, because I'm doing a watch through again. I'm on season 8. Remind me, is when they release Bobby up to heaven during the trials, is that the last time that we see regular Earth Bobby? He's mentioned later, and of course we have AU Bobby, but is that the last time that we see original Earth Bobby?
We have Heaven Bobby in Inside Man, when he's in his little house, and the Bobbies are surly.
Oh, gotcha.
But somehow
yes.
Jim Beaver's been in every season, I think, even if it's a cameo as a memory.
Mm-hmm. I was just it hit me because when they released him to heaven, he said, "They better not give me a rocking chair." And the very last episode, when we see Bobby again, that's what he's sitting in, and it just hit me when I was rewatching it, like that.
Oh, that's perfect.
Crazy foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like for once, the writers of 1520 actually did go back and watch the show. There were some episodes where I really doubted that, but they done good in a lot of ways, picking up on those little nuances.
I heard
Maybe they did a rewatch. Huh.
Yeah, I heard a lot of that was also Jared and Jensen, though. I love it. In the last episode, a lot was requests from them, and because they had to rewrite it for COVID, they had to rewrite it for the thing anyways. They used that opportunity to pluck stuff from early on
Well, folks, I know we could do this all night, and we'll have to plan to pick this up later, but thank you all. This has been great. Let's go around again and tell everybody where people can find you online or find your stories. And Alex, go ahead and start us off.
You can find all of my books and short stories and anthologies on my website, alexandergideon.net. You can find me on Twitter at Alexander Gideon. On Facebook, we just search Alexander G.R. Gideon. And you can read my questionably helpful blog at readasthouwill.com. In fact, my last blog post was my reaction to finally watching the last episode of Supernatural.
Awesome. Chris?
I am Quick Reader all over the internet, any place, any social media. If you plug that in, you'll find all my fandom works. But my original works are under ChristineGriffinArt.com.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I also wanted to plug our about the season 16. It's Frontierland Productions on Tumblr. All one word, Frontierland Productions on Tumblr. That's where you find
it. It's also a collection on AO3, is it not?
Right. Yeah.
So if you go to AO3 and you look for Frontierland Productions, it will show you all the episodes as they occur.
Okay. Lola?
My name is Lola Laracy. I have a website, lolalaracy.com, but it's cheap and I don't like the way it looks. So I want to change it. But it was on sale. It's like the sorcery something, little template thing, and it's not good. But anyways, I want to change that eventually. You can also Google me and I'm everywhere.
Carole?
I'm pretty much Firesign10 anywhere. On Twitter, I am true_Firesign10. On AO3, I am Firesign10, where I have a host of fiction, Mind the Tags, and here.
And I'm pretty findable at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. All of my social media is some permutation of those names. Just remember the Z and spell Bryce with an I and you'll find me. I run the Supernatural TFWNC fan group, which does a lot of live interactive stuff, and we have a lot of fun together. I'm one of the con runners here for Continual with the Supernatural fandom track. And I have a couple of reader groups, one for my Morgan Bryce Mail Romance, and which, of course, the story is I went down the fan fiction rabbit hole, discovered Slash, came back up, discovered the non-fandom stuff, said this is just too much fun, started a whole new pen name, and now it's half of my writing career. Supernatural do that to you. Well, folks, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And thank all of you for watching and listening. There'll be more Supernatural coming soon, so we'll see you online.